strange feeling. That's a very strange feeling. There's suction, but there's something sharp going on as well. Really getting stuck in there. Oh, easier said than done.
He's known as the fearless host of river monsters, the man who's stared down some of the most terrifying creatures lurking in our planet's waterways. But while Jeremy Wade's intrepid adventures have captivated millions, few know the true extent of the tragedies and trials he's overcome to bring his vision to the screen. From devastating personal losses to brushes with death in the most remote corners of the globe, Wade's journey is one of unimaginable heartbreak and relentless determination in the face of impossible odds. Today, we'll wade deeper into the untold story behind the angling icon, exploring the hidden pains that have fueled his quest to unlock the mysteries of the deep, and reveal how one man's mission to hunt river monsters became an inspiration for us all to keep casting out into the unknown, no matter how dark the waters may seem. How a childhood passion became an epic global quest. Jeremy Wade's story begins, fittingly enough, on the banks of a river. Born in 1956 in Suffolk, England, he first felt the pull of the water as a young boy exploring the River Stour near his home. Fishing quickly became an all-consuming passion, one that would come to define the course of his life. But to transform this childhood hobby into a globe-trotting career would require unparalleled dedication. Wade laid the foundation by pursuing a zoology degree at Bristol University. After graduating, he spent years working as a biology teacher to fund his true calling, embarking on increasingly ambitious angling expeditions to every corner of the planet. His first major trip in 1982 saw him spend 3 months in India, chasing the elusive mahseer fish in the subcontinent's mountain rivers, armed with just 200 pounds to his name. Upon returning to England, Wade wrote about his experiences for fishing magazines, his vivid accounts of pursuing the mahseer in the wild Himalayan waters, opening anglers' eyes to a whole world of untold aquatic adventures. It lit a fire in him to tell more of these stories, and so he threw himself into planning the next journeys. He saved every penny he could to fund trips to the planet's most remote rivers, driven by one relentless goal: to find and film the world's largest, most astonishing freshwater fish. Each expedition pushed him further into uncharted waters, from the depths of the Congo River to the hidden lakes of India. Little did Wade know as he set out on these early adventures just how much he would be forced to endure and overcome to make his dream a reality. Death-defying dangers in the depths. As Wade's quests grew increasingly ambitious, so too did the risks he faced in his endless pursuit of river monsters. Perhaps no single moment encapsulates those perils more starkly than a 2005 expedition to an Indian river, where he was investigating reports of something in the water snatching unsuspecting people from the shore. After weeks of research and planning, Wade finally came face to face with the culprit, a monstrous 161-pound goonch catfish. The epic struggle to reel in this behemoth nearly cost the angler his life, but it gave him an idea that would change everything: to create a television series hunting down these real-life river monsters and share their stories with the world. But of course, taking on the world's most fearsome aquatic beasts was never going to be a safe endeavor. Over the years, Wade contracted cerebral malaria on the Congo River, leaving him in agonizing pain and fighting through fevers as he continued to work. He was arrested on suspicion of spying while filming in Southeast Asia. And on one truly harrowing expedition, his plane crashed into the Amazon, a nightmare scenario that pushed the crew to the limits of human endurance as they waited for rescue. And the dangers didn't end when Wade was on dry land. He was bitten by a venomous snake while trekking through a South American jungle in search of a mythical fish. As he felt the venom coursing through his body, searing pain rendering him almost paralyzed, he was convinced he was going to die. Against all odds, he survived. But it was a terrifying reminder of just how quickly these adventures could turn deadly. Most people would have taken any one of these near-death experiences as a sign to hang up the fishing rod and seek out a safer line of work. But for Wade, each brush with death only seemed to steel his resolve. He couldn't turn away now, not when there were still so many outlandish aquatic legends to investigate, still so many river monsters to find. Little did he know, however, that some of the greatest pains he would endure in the years ahead would have nothing to do with the dangers lurking in the water, and everything to do with the losses awaiting him back on shore. The hole in his soul, coping with the loss of loved ones. For a man who's made a career out of staring down death in the most remote corners of the world, perhaps it's no surprise that Jeremy Wade knows the sting of loss more keenly than most. After all, pain is no stranger to those who walk the path of adventure. But as Wade threw himself into ever more dangerous expeditions, chasing the river monsters that had captured his imagination, the specter of tragedy was never far behind. Some losses cut deeper than others. Wade's father, a vicar, passed away when he was just a young man, a formative wound that perhaps left an aching need in Wade to find meaning and purpose in the untamed reaches of the wild. And while the details remain shrouded in secrecy, multiple sources have alluded to a devastating accident during one of Wade's early adventures, a doomed expedition that claimed the life of a dear friend who had accompanied him on many of his most harrowing journeys. The specifics of the tragedy have never been revealed, but the scars it left behind are unmistakable. In the few times he's opened up about this chapter of his life, Wade has spoken of the unimaginable guilt and helplessness he felt in the face of nature's ultimate power. A man broken by the realization that, for all his strength and skill, he was powerless to save the person who meant the most to him. In the wake of such a devastating loss, some men would have been destroyed, their spirit shattered beyond repair. But for Wade, it seems to have had the opposite effect. He threw himself even more forcefully into his work, pushing himself to ever greater extremes in pursuit of the river monsters that had become his reason for being. It was as if, by hunting down these aquatic beasts, he could somehow keep the memory of his lost friend alive, a way of honoring their shared adventures by ensuring the stories they set out to tell would not go untold. But even as Wade chased monsters in the depths, he was haunted by the holes in his own heart. The pain of losing his father, his friend, and other loved ones along the way was a constant companion, a reminder of the price he had paid to pursue this extraordinary life. And yet, through it all, he kept pressing forward, driven by the belief that there was still more to discover, still more adventures waiting just around the river bend. Facing fears and failure on the road to river monsters. Of course, for all the passion that fueled Jeremy Wade's early expeditions, the road to creating river monsters was paved with countless obstacles, from financial woes to the constant specter of failure. Chasing fish stories to the ends of the earth was an expensive proposition, and Wade often found himself struggling to make ends meet in those early years. He took on massive debts and spent months at a time away from home, sacrificing relationships and time with loved ones as he single-mindedly pursued his vision. Even as his reputation grew within the angling community, thanks to his articles and photographs documenting his incredible catches, Wade struggled to find sponsors willing to take a chance on his unconventional approach. He refused to compromise his vision of using fishing as a lens to explore the world's cultures and ecosystems, a stubbornness that often left him on the brink of financial ruin. But in 2009, after nearly 3 decades of tireless hustling, Wade's impossible dream finally became a reality with the debut of River Monsters. The show was an instant sensation, captivating audiences with its stunning cinematography, pulse-pounding adventures, and Wade's seemingly encyclopedic knowledge of all things aquatic. At last, it seemed, all the sacrifices had been worth it. But even as River Monsters took off, the challenges kept coming. The show's grueling production schedule and far-flung locations took a serious toll on Wade's health, with the host suffering everything from severe food poisoning to a horrific infection from a catfish barb that nearly cost him his leg. And of course, not every expedition yielded a monster for the cameras. Wade has spoken candidly of the trips that ended in disappointment despite months of research and planning, the ones that left him feeling like a failure, wondering if he was chasing fairy tales. In the end, though, it was always the successes, the mind-boggling catches and the sense of unlocking ancient aquatic mysteries that kept Wade coming back for more. And with each passing season, river monsters grew into a global phenomenon, inspiring a new generation of anglers and adventurers to follow in Wade's footsteps and chart their own course into the unknown, forging a legacy larger than TV. But even as river monsters cemented Jeremy Wade's status as an angling icon, he knew there was far more to his mission than just making great television. After 9 wildly successful seasons, Wade made the stunning decision to walk away from the show that had made him a household name. But his work was far from over. He quickly transitioned to a new series, Mighty Rivers, which saw him turn his focus to the grave challenges facing the world's waterways and the threatened aquatic species that call them home. By shining a light on the impact of pollution, climate change, and other man-made threats to these delicate ecosystems, Wade hoped to inspire a global movement to protect them before it was too late. When he's not in front of the camera, Wade is a tireless advocate for river conservation, using his platform to raise awareness and funds for organizations working to preserve aquatic habitats worldwide. He's also become a sought-after speaker and mentor, dedicating himself to helping young people develop the same passion for fishing and respect for the natural world that have defined his own life. In many ways, it seems Wade's entire career has been building toward this moment, a chance to leverage his hard-won wisdom and global platform to leave the world's waterways wilder and healthier than he found them. Every river monster caught, every secret corner of the map explored, was a stepping stone to this greater purpose. And for a man who spent his life chasing the extraordinary, perhaps the most extraordinary thing of all is the legacy he's now working to build. The man behind the myths. Who is the real Jeremy Wade? For all his on-screen charisma and daring-do, the real Jeremy Wade has always been something of an enigma. A man who's built a career on chasing legends, but who's often seemed more comfortable letting his adventures do the talking. But dig a little deeper, and a portrait emerges of a person whose extraordinary drive and single-minded passion for the natural world have been both his greatest strength and his heaviest burden. Those who know Wade best often speak of his relentless work ethic, his meticulous attention to detail in planning his expeditions. He's a man who's always been more at home in the wild than in the comforts of civilization, someone who's never been afraid to push himself to the absolute limit in pursuit of his goals. But they also speak of a deep kindness, a genuine humility that belies his status as a globe-trotting TV star. Despite the macho, fearless persona he projects on camera, the real Jeremy Wade is a thoughtful, introspective soul. Someone who's always been driven more by a sincere fascination with the natural world than any desire for fame or glory. He's a perpetual student, forever eager to learn from the local fishermen and guides he meets on his travels. And for all the time he's spent in the spotlight, he's happiest when he's off the grid, exploring some far-flung river with nothing but a fishing rod and a sense of wonder. Of course, as we've seen, that unrelenting drive has also come at a cost. The same single-minded focus that's made Wade a legend in the angling world has often strained his relationships and left him isolated, even as he's inspired countless others to follow in his footsteps. But perhaps that's the price of true greatness, the sacrifices that must be made in service of a higher calling. And for Jeremy Wade, that calling will always be the mysteries waiting in the world's waters and the extraordinary creatures that call them home. Charting new waters. What's next for Jeremy Wade? So what does the future hold for the man who's already achieved more than most could dream of in a dozen lifetimes? True to form, Jeremy Wade shows no signs of slowing down. If anything, he seems more energized than ever by the challenges ahead. In recent years, he's turned his attention increasingly to the threats facing the world's rivers, from the impacts of climate change to the scourge of plastic pollution. He's become a vocal advocate for conservation efforts around the globe, using his platform to raise awareness and inspire action on behalf of the aquatic ecosystems he knows and loves so well. But even as he's taken on this new role as the environmental champion, Wade hasn't lost his passion for adventure and discovery. He's continued to lead expeditions to some of the world's most remote and untouched waterways, always on the hunt for the next river monster. and the next great story to share with the world. In many ways, it feels like Jeremy Wade is just getting started. After all, he's already defied the odds at every turn, from his humble beginnings on the riverbanks of Suffolk to his rise as a global icon. Who's to say where his insatiable curiosity and drive will take him next? Perhaps he'll finally come face to face with the elusive Loch Ness Monster, putting to rest one of the greatest aquatic mysteries of all time. Maybe he'll uncover a new species of giant catfish lurking in the depths of an unexplored jungle river. Or perhaps he'll help lead the charge to restore a mighty waterway to its former glory, inspiring a new generation to take up the cause of conservation. Only one thing is certain. Wherever Jeremy Wade's adventures take him next, he'll be guided by the same relentless passion and determination that have defined his extraordinary life and career. And for the rest of us, that's reason enough to keep believing in the power of curiosity, the magic of the natural world, and the enduring legend of the man who chased monsters and caught the imagination of the world. As we've seen, the story of Jeremy Wade is one of unimaginable challenges and triumphs, of a man who refused to let tragedy or failure stand in the way of his dreams. To watch him on screen, dancing with river monsters in the planet's most remote corners, it's easy to forget the decades of struggle and sacrifice that paved the way. The loved ones lost, the illnesses endured, the financial gambles that could have spelled ruin. But perhaps that's what makes Wade's story so truly inspirational. The fact that for all the pain he's experienced, he never lost sight of the beauty and wonder waiting just beneath the surface. Every monster he's conquered, every river he's helped protect, is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable odds. In the end, Jeremy Wade's greatest catch may not be the river monsters he's reeled in over the years, but rather the countless lives he's touched along the way. The aspiring anglers and adventurers who have seen in his story a reminder that no matter how many times we may get pulled under by the currents of life, we always have the strength to rise again. And in a world that so often feels divided by fear and uncertainty, perhaps that's the most extraordinary fish story of all, the story of one man who cast off into the unknown and inspired the rest of us to follow.